Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dana. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to Hypnosis.
And beyond.
Today we have Suzan Hart, who is a mindset mentor who helps leaders master their message by building the confidence to express their story authentically and powerfully.
Welcome, Suzanne. Why don't we dive right in and find out what brought you to Hypnosis and Beyond today?
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to be here, and what brought me to Hypnosis and Beyond, one is curiosity. I'm always curious about anything health and wellness and any different modality because I come from a sports background and very much a health and wellness background, and of course, Jen and I we have met and we've kind of connected. So I was curious to see what you were up to, and I got an invite, so I was like, yes, why not?
Amazing. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey that led to doing what you're doing right at this moment, being a mentor, a mindset mastery mentor? What's that all
Yeah.
about?
Well, it's kind of like, do you want the long story or the short story? I guess I'll give you the in between. My journey started many years ago, and it kind of started when I stepped into one of my very first leadership roles. And if I can share a story with you, it's my first day. It's my first day in a new role, and I've been brought in by a team, a multidisciplinary team, to do some very specific work. And I'm going to be working with a colleague, and in this time, I'm wearing my social service hat. I was doing social work, and I would come in to be the lead on the cases that I had. So as I'm unpacking my box and I'm meeting my new office mate, this gentleman pops in, and his name's Danny, and he says, "Hey, how are you? I'm going to be your childcare worker. I'll be working with you." And and I just wanted to welcome you. So I'm like, "Oh, wonderful. Thank you." And as I continue to, like, we try to chit chat a little bit, and then he goes, "Well, I'll get going." And before he goes, he says, "Oh, by the way, I need to tell you that I really don't like when they write these positions specifically for someone because I think it dumbs down the position." And I sit there going, "Oh." And you could see my new office mate, she's so uncomfortable and she doesn't know where to look, and she's like, "What the heck is going on?" And I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" And it stopped me for a moment. And I will say to you that if it was years earlier, I would have been so upset. I would have been so offended. But I've been blessed to be working with another multidisciplinary team. And I remember when I first got there, they asked me all these questions. What did I know about my own history? What did I know about urban studies, for of all things? What did I know about all these things? And really, what they were getting to was, how grounded was I in this work, me as Suzanne, the person. And I was just out of school, and I was like, I was not prepared for this. You know, what? This didn't cover any of this in my degree. And what they began to do was, they began to do, I guess, what I would call their version of mindset with me. They began to have me explore my own history as a Black woman. They had me explore my history as a woman, period. They had me understand urban studies, which is the migration of different groups within a city, so I could really get present to the groups I would be working with. They started to help me understand the dynamics of power and privilege and all these different things. And so I worked with this team for 4 years. So by the time I got to standing in front of Danny, I was very grounded in who Suzanne was as a person and what I brought to the table. So what he said to me didn't rattle me in the sense of who I was. But if it was 4 years earlier, I would have been rattled, I would have been pissed off, and I probably would have had some unpleasant words for him. And I remember sitting there, and after I kept staring at him, I said, "Well, thank you for that." And I sat down. And And in that moment, I began to realize that, when we walk into a new place with our position and title and all the things that come with that, it gives us authority to lead, but it doesn't give us the status. It doesn't give us the earned right. And what this man was actually telling me in a very direct way, that you're going to have to earn the right to lead me. And as I began to unpack that over the years, I began to realize that when people step into leadership positions, they take on the mantle of leadership. In other words, the position I have, the job description I have, all these things give me the authority to lead these people. But they don't actually ask the question, have I earned their trust? Have I earned their respect? Have I earned the right to do so? So the work that I began to do was really developing this curiosity about what does it take to earn the right beyond position and title to actually have this thing called status, where I've earned enough credibility with someone that it gives me the right to have any influence over who they are. And I began to realize that leadership lives within us. It's not a title, it's not a position, it's not any of those things. It's who we are and who we be in the world and how we show up. And it is demonstrated in the most difficult of times. How do I show up when I'm in conflict? How do I show up when I'm experiencing change? How do I show up in uncertainty? How do I show up in all these different things? And so I just went on this journey of exploring that and came to realize that it has a lot to do with how I think, how I manage my emotions, my own self talk about who I am and what I bring to the world, how I communicate with the world, and all that, when it's in alignment, determines how I show up. And so for me, it was just this curiosity about what is leadership truly if it doesn't live in the power and privilege that comes with title and position, and if I actually had to embody it. And so the work I do with the people I work with is I help them begin to embody leadership versus leaning on title and position. So I say, we're going to put your title and position in your back pocket, and we're going to teach you how to, when you need to pull that out. And that's usually when you're managing people. And the rest of the time, you're going to embody this thing called leadership. What does that look like? And most people are like, oh, I actually don't know. Well, what is leadership? I haven't really thought of it that much. And so for me, that became the journey I went on and the work I do. And that's kind of how, what I do today. So yeah.
Well, there's so many places to go from there. I mean, what happened in between the meeting and today, leading people and working with clients? Like, did you
You
go
know,
back to school and study this, or yeah?
well, I have a social psych degree, so I have a
Mm-hmm.
social science degree with a specialty in group dynamics and counseling. So I've got kind of gone on a journey and worked in, I worked in social services for about 10 to 12 years, both directly with families, a lot of work with teenagers, and then went into management in that, and then moved to Toronto and began my journey in women's services and managed a women's shelter and then a drop-in the downtown core of the city of Toronto. And then from there, I was kind of burnt, exhausted, and thought I can't hear any more problems. I just can't deal with any more of the trauma that comes with working with marginalized groups and difficult groups. And I took a total left turn and said I want to have fun, and got a call and went on an adventure in network marketing and spent about 12 years there. And I still have a downline today. But what was interesting was when I got into network marketing, I got confronted again with this thing called leadership, because I didn't have the leverage of a paycheck to invite people to do things. I had to actually inspire them through a vision to take action on something that there was no guarantee of. And that started a whole new leadership journey in terms of how do I actually become a person of influence. And so going through that journey was a huge growth. Um, Understanding a different dimension of leadership, understanding really what it was to embody leadership. And so that took a number of years. And in there, I started this whole speaking and storytelling journey, which I think is another dimension of how we lead and how we engage and enroll people. And came out and said, well, what do I do with this collection of experiences? What do I do with my years in social services, my years in network marketing, my years in women's services, my experience as an athlete? Um, and how do I pull all this together, and really understanding that I didn't want to, no longer wanted to work for someone, and then went on a journey of figuring out how to work for myself. And that brings me to kind of where I am today and what I'm doing today. And as I say that, I really want to say to everyone, I have not arrived. This is a continuous, persistent journey where I am just a few steps ahead of the people I work with. And together, we create magic, if you will, which has each of us expand and grow and become more. And I'm blessed to be in an iron sharpened iron circumstance with my clients, with my peers, with my collaborators, and just feel very blessed to do something I love and partner and collaborate with people that totally inspire me. So here I am.
It sounds like inspiration is a big part of your life philosophy, your approach to life in general.
That it's interesting that you say that, because a number of years ago, I remember I was asked to choose a word, and it came out, I am inspiration. Right. And I tell people the first person I'm required to inspire is Suzanne. And when I inspire Suzanne, I become inspiration in the world. Because you know how hard we are on ourselves, right? So if I can create those moments where I'm like a little bit of in awe of myself because of something I've learned, something I've stepped out and done, somehow I faced my fear, anything like that, then I'm living in this place of inspiration, and I'm hoping that the domino effect of who I'm being touches somebody who says, "Wow, she can do that. I can do that too." You know,
That's a big piece of leadership too, isn't it?
I think it's the biggest piece of leadership, and that's why, when I look at leadership, I always say that the first person and the only person I must lead is me. And when I do it well, I become a source of inspired action. And because of that, I have influence over, or I influence people in such a way that they say, hmm, I like what you're up to, and I either want to walk with you, or you've inspired me to step out and do something, right? And we all have that brilliance in us. Sometimes we just need an example or a spark or somebody to remind us of who we can be in the world. And I know for me, the leaders that have moved me and got me into action, it wasn't their title or position or any of those things. It was how they were showing up around me. And somehow how they showed up around me had me want to be more, or they had character traits that I was like, oh, I just want to embody that. Simon Sinek says the person's a worthy rival. There's something about them that pulls me into action and has me want to be more. And so for me, I think it is that is how we embody leadership. We walk through the world in a way where we invite people to step into the possibility of being more and continuously meeting the next best version of who we are meant to be.
Really like that next best version because, like you say, we are ever evolving. There's
Hmm.
there really isn't a destination per se, except the next version of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah. It was interesting. I was having a conversation with someone today, and we were talking about how often when we get to a certain age, we think we're running out of time. And I said, Well, that's all relative, really, because time is time, and we none of us know what we have. It's not promise. But if we look at time in the from the perspective of there's room for me to evolve, well, there's always room for me to evolve, and therefore for me it's I'm not running out of time. I'm just embracing opportunities to expand and become more, because if I stop doing that, in my mind I'm not standing still, I'm actually beginning the process of dying. And there are so many people who've begun that process, but they're still alive fully, they're still, their heart is beating, everything's fine, but internally, because they aren't growing, they've begun that process. I believe, like the plant and like the tree, we started as a seed, and inside that seed is everything. The question is, do we actually know what's in that seed? No. We go on the journey of finding it out. And I joke all the time and say, the tree doesn't wake up one day and go, I think I'm retired. I'm done. I'm gonna go sit on the beach. Can you imagine? It continues to grow until it's time. And I think that's who we're called to be, are these evolving individuals who continue to grow until that day comes.
Yeah. Well, what are some of your favorite ways that you help people grow?
I think, it's interesting because most people come in to meet me through storytelling. And a lot of entrepreneurs know that they either want to become speakers, or they believe that speaking will move them forward, or they want to become better presenters. And so I teach this workshop called Unleash the Power of Your Story. And basically what it is helping people um, turn their life experiences into meaningful stories that inspire transformation in another person. And so most people come in and meet me through that work. And whenever we do it, I always unpack the psychology behind story, why stories work, and we create jointly an experience where people begin to craft and build their stories while they're in the workshop. They practice their stories, and my goal is to just build their confidence in the possibility of being fully self-expressed, their confidence in sharing a piece of themselves with the world. And for many people, it's the first time that they've shared something of themselves or story with an audience that they don't know. That's not, I went to this school, I got this degree, I do this, and this is how I'm known in the world. Because that's usually what people share when they stand up in front of people. And I'm inviting them to talk about a journey where they have gone through a transformation that inspired them to be more. And so that's where a lot of people meet me. And then from there, what most people realize is that how I think is really important, and how I master the conversations I have with myself, because oftentimes what's preventing us from even stepping out and being self-expressed is our ongoing running conversation that has been disempowering us since we were probably very small. And so in the program, we kind of unpack these things as people are invited to share their stories with people they met first thing this morning, and now at the end of the day they're sharing things about themselves. And that's how most people meet me. And then many people choose to continue the journey and really begin to look at their mindset and how the stories they tell themselves have created this cycle and habitual state of emotions that are probably standing in the way of where they desire to be. And so I go on a journey of unpacking that with them and inviting them to step deeper into their own leadership journey. And that leadership journey is different for each and every one of us, right? Um, all of us have a brilliance and a superpower I believe we're supposed to share with the world. And often is the journey inward that allows us to birth whatever that is and feel comfortable just sharing it with the world.
I can also say it's a brilliant workshop. It's incredible. I was lucky enough to do it last year.
Yeah.
And it's so timely because you're doing another one, right? Shortly?
Yes, we're doing one on the 10th and 11th of April, the Friday and Saturday. It is 2 half days, so 9 till 1. We have a VIP session. And it's an experience. We're inviting you people to come in, and we're inviting people to come with a friend and have your practice buddy, and we are going to go an experience of crafting a story. And a lot for a lot of people, I'm very curious about the story that originated their journey to what they're doing. In the same way you asked me, what was the story that got you to step into leadership? It's we all have a story. What's interesting is most of us don't tell that story. And oftentimes we don't tell that story because behind that story is some kernel of shame, guilt, I'm not enough, uncertainty. And we think it's a story of how much success we've had, how many degrees we have, that journey that inspires people. And I remind people that no, it's actually the story where life knocked you down and you found the courage to get back up, brush yourself off, learn a lesson, and move and transform into the next best version of yourself that people are really interested in. And the reason I believe so is we all have these places and spaces that we're stuck. And when you're stuck, you feel totally alone and you think it's only me that's been stuck here. And all you want is someone to say, ah, me too. That was me. I remember that. And to be able to identify and connect with someone in those moments, one, and to have someone say, and I got out, I got up, and you're going to get up too. And by the way, if you want some help, I have some tips and tools that I learned when I was getting up that I'm happy to share with you. That's the purpose of story. And and it connects us in these most vulnerable places without us feeling totally exposed, right? It gives permission for someone to have introspection. That's why when we watch a movie we cry and we have those moments of introspection, because we're connecting with the character and we're connecting with that moment, and it touches us, and we're like, why is this happening? It's because we've connected. And movies are just great stories. Imagine being able to tell those stories in moments in your business and in your life, and move people and have them be inspired to go to a new place and try something new and do something different. And that's the purpose of story for us. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. I again, I can't recommend it highly enough. It was a fantastic weekend. So for people who are available to do it, I would say sign up now.
Well, thank you. And I will say, I get the privilege of facilitating a process. It's the people in the room that actually make the event. I get to ask great questions. We have great worksheets, but it's the coming together of this group who probably didn't know each other in the beginning, and them giving to each other through shares and contribution that makes the room come alive. And I'm always amazed because at the end of the day, I'm always like, okay, why are they not going home? And it's because they've connected as a group, and they are in these moments where they've shared. And that's the hope we all want as we lead people to create those moments of connection.
Absolutely. Well, I
Yeah.
wonder if there might be one of your favorite questions that you do propose in your storytelling workshops, if there's something you might be willing to share with our audience. I know it's always hard to narrow it down to one, that's why, but
I
if
think
there's something that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think it is, for everyone to think back to the moment they started their business, their career, or the project that they're so inspired about right now. And there's often a time where you're thinking about it, and when we start something new, we have that kernel of uncertainty, and sometimes we're stopped. And so the question we started is, if you could do anything, or if you're on a journey right now, what was the thing that was stopping you, right? And why? And we often start in that place because that's usually the beginning of what we call the mess that created the message that you're bringing to the world right now. And so we're looking for what's that messy place that you had to overcome, that taught you these valuable lessons, that created a message that you're now sharing with the world. So I would invite people to just go back and think, what was the thing? When I think of mindset work, I always go back to the moment when I was getting divorced, and it was at one of the messiest places in my life. But in those moments, as I was doing my work to healing, I had to ask myself some really challenging questions. And with every question came these epiphanies and transformations, and the seeing of Suzanne and going, ooh, I'm not sure I like how she's showing up, and asking, how can I show up differently? That started this journey in many ways of this chapter where I'm building a business based on those things. But that was the moment. And was it a moment that was like, wow, wonderful? No, it was messy. It was painful. It had its embarrassing moments. But that was the moment that shifted everything. And we all have those moments. I hope that answered.
Yes, no, it's a wonderful answer. I think we could probably continue asking you a bunch of questions, um, because we loved all your answers. And that brings us to our next segment, which is our silly subconscious question. It's a
Okay,
wonderful segue. We
I'm
get to
ready.
ask
I'm
you a
ready.
silly question, and we're very curious about your answer. And our question for you today, Suzanne, is if you were an animal for one day, what's the first thing you would do? If you want to share with us what animal you'd be, that's cool too. But if you were an animal for one day, what's the first thing you would do?
I think it's interesting because it's not the thing that I thought would come to mind, but I think right now I would be a bird. And I would be a bird, and I would just take off and take flight. There's something about the freedom of being up in the air and just being able to have that view of so much, and being able to fly over the water and then fly over the forest, and just explore from this level. So today, that's the thing that came to mind. If you ask me tomorrow, it might be a totally different animal depending on the mood I'm in, I imagine. Yeah, great
I love
question.
how yeah, I love how quickly that came to your mind. So that was definitely your unconscious. And beyond what we've spoken of today, since you're such an inspiring woman, do you have anything to share with our audience, leave our audience with today?
Um, I think I want to invite everyone to consider that um, each and every single one of us has a unique brilliance or superpower. And oftentimes that brilliance or superpower is the thing that we do so habitually, so off the cuff, that we diminish it. Right? We just go, yeah, yeah, I do that so easily. And could it be that one thing is a superpower that you're meant to cultivate and share with the world? And I say that because I think we all have a brilliance that we are meant to find the courage to give away, right? And when I say give away, I don't mean for free necessarily, but I mean to have the courage to put it into the world, and provide a learning with it for other people, because my brilliance is not your brilliance, and your brilliance might be what I need. right? And so I'd invite people to just really trust that thing that is comes so naturally to them and say, huh, what could I do with this if I were to share it with the world? So that would be my thought.
Love it.
That's
Thank you so
beautiful.
much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, we hope you'll come back and visit us another time. And I'm so excited for your upcoming workshop. Thank you for letting our audience know about it.
Thank you.
And with that, Jen, what do we always say?
Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out.